Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging headfirst into something really critical. Anyone working with tech, law, content creation, you need to hear this.
Absolutely.
We're talking AI copyright wars. Specifically, this big showdown, Newsnet versus SynthMind. You know, the news giant and the AI powerhouse.
It's a huge case.
And these lawsuits, they're not just in one place. They're like popping up like popcorn in a microwave. Metro City's high court, U.S. federal courts, everywhere.
It's global, fast.
So this deep dive, we're cutting through the noise. We want to give you a clear picture of what this actually means for AI, for publishing, and yeah, for you.
It really is a watershed moment. Understanding the legal stuff underneath it all is, well, it's paramount. These fights are going to reshape how we deal with information, how creativity gets valued.
Right.
So yeah, we're here to break down these complex bits, connect the dots between the tech, the law, and what it means for everyday creators.
Okay, let's get right to it then. What exactly is Newsnet accusing SynthMind of? What's the core complaint that kicked all this off?
Well, Newsnet's claim is pretty direct. They're saying SynthMind's AI model, which is, one of these advanced text generators, used millions of their copyrighted news articles. Millions. Headlines, full reports, even their exclusive stories. And critically, without permission. They weren't just read by the system. They were ingested to train SynthMind's basic language abilities.
So ingested, like it learned to talk by reading their stuff.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And from the U.S. side of things, it's a story we're hearing a lot now. AI companies getting sued left and right for supposedly scraping huge amounts of online content.
Scraping?
Yeah, pulling data automatically to then generate answers, blogs, scripts, marketing copy, even computer code.
Okay, so if I'm getting this right, it's kind of like SynthMind photocopied Newsnet's entire library without asking, built its brain on it, and then started charging people for access to that brain.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually. That's the heart of Newsnet's argument. The whole legal fight really comes down to who gets the credit, and maybe more importantly, who should get paid when an AI learns from and then creates things based on copyrighted work.
Okay, so Newsnet lays out these accusations.
Yeah.
But what's the legal ground here? We keep hearing fair use thrown around. How do courts actually figure these cases out, especially with AI involved?
Right. Fair use. It's central, especially in U.S. law. Courts look at those classic four factors. But the real fight, the tricky part now, is applying them to AI.
How so?
Well, the big battleground seem to be, first, the purpose and character of the use. Is the AI truly transforming the original content, creating something new? Or is it just, replacing the market for the original?
Oh, the transformative argument.
Exactly. And the second big one is the effect on the potential market. Does the AI output hurt the value or sales of the original copyrighted work?
And what about outside the U.S.? You mentioned Metro City.
Right. In India, for example, you've got Section 52 of the Copyright Act. It allows for fair dealing, similar idea for things like research, criticism, review. But using someone's headlines or detailed reporting just to generate profit with your AI, that starts looking like let's say, a legal red zone. It's generally not seen as fair dealing.
So that transformative use defense from the AI companies, how does that stack up against Newsnet basically saying, hey, you're hurting our business, you're taking our value?
Yeah.
It sounds like the AI is, I don't know, chewing up a newspaper and spitting out summaries without paying for breakfast.
That's one way to put it. And yeah, you've nailed the core tension. Newsnet isn't just after an apology. They want to be paid.
For every byte, basically.
For every byte, maybe. They argue this AI used directly hits their subscriptions, their ad revenue, the whole model.
Okay, let's bring this down to brass tacks for our listeners.
Yeah.
For you listening, say I'm a YouTuber, right?
Okay.
And I use SynthMind to help generate my script. Am I suddenly, at risk here? What's the practical advice?
Good question. It depends. If your script is really original based on your own ideas, your own research, you're probably okay. Generally fine.
Yeah.
But the risk comes if SynthMind spits out chunks for your script that are maybe copyrighted phrases or paragraphs lifted pretty directly from Newsnet or some other protected source, and you use those bits without checking or changing them significantly.
Oh, okay.
That's where you could get exposed. So for creators, US, India, anywhere really, the advice is pretty consistent right now. You absolutely have to check the output. Fact check it, yes, but also check it for originality. Paraphrase heavily. Don't just copy paste.
So use it as a starting point, maybe. An assistant.
Exactly. Think of it as a powerful research assistant or a brainstorming partner, not as a ghostwriter, especially if you're talking about news or topics where specific wording might be copyrighted.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, let's play this out. Some hypothetical scenarios. What if, say, a big delivery app uses SynthMind for its customer service FAQs, and the answers end up being like word-for-word snippets from Newsnet articles?
Yeah.
Or, different angle, a student runs a blog, posts AI-generated summaries of the latest economic reports. Same level of risk for both.
Definitely not the same level. The risk is almost certainly higher for the commercial company, the delivery app, in your example.
Why is that?
Courts generally look much more critically at commercial use, using the AI output directly for profit, than they do at individual, non-commercial, or educational use like the student blog. There's more leniency there, usually.
Okay.
But what's really interesting, and kind of a warning sign for businesses, is this trend we're seeing. Companies getting pushed into licensing data after the fact, retroactively.
Paying up after they got caught, basically.
Kinda, and let me tell you, that's expensive. And legally, it's messy. It really shows the pressure building on companies to get their data sources sorted out before they launch.
So on the flip side then, what are the AI companies like SynthMind doing to shield themselves? Are they just hoping these lawsuits go away, or are they actually changing things?
Oh, they're definitely not just waiting. They're reacting very actively. A big move is pursuing bulk licensing deals.
Going directly to publishers like Newsnet and saying, okay, let's make a deal.
Exactly. They're recognizing that paying for data access might just be the cost of doing business now. It's becoming unavoidable for some types of data.
What else?
Well, another huge area is investing in clean data sets, trying to train models only on stuff that's clearly okay to use.
Like what? What's in a clean data set?
Things like government reports, which are usually public domain, scientific papers with open licenses, older books where the copyright expired, public forums, open source encyclopedias maybe, anything clearly not under strict copyright.
So trying to avoid the problem altogether.
Right. And some are also putting in technical guardrails, trying to stop the AI from just spitting back exact phrases it learned, or adding disclaimers, basically trying to limit the risk. These lawsuits are absolutely pushing them to clean up their act.
Okay, this is vital then, for everyone listening. How can you protect yourself? Let's break it down. What should creators do? And what about developers building AI tools?
Okay, good question. For creators, the big takeaway is use AI as a tool, not a crutch. Use it for ideas, for maybe a first draft, for overcoming writer's block.
But not the final product.
But always review, revise, and rewrite that output. Make it your own. Check for originality. If you're pulling specific facts or ideas that came from the AI, try to trace them back, credit sources if you can, or at least rephrase substantially. Don't just trust it blindly.
Got it. And for developers, people building these things?
For developers, it's more about the foundations. Number one, prioritize using data you know you have the rights to. That means publicly licensed data sets, open source stuff, or data you've explicitly licensed.
Be transparent.
Yes, transparency is key. Be clear about your data sources if possible. And honestly, before you launch any AI tool that the public is going to use, talk to a lawyer.
Get legal advice early.
Get legal advice early. Have them look at your training data, your output methods. It's an upfront cost, but it could save you, well, a fortune down the line.
Speaking of fortunes, what is the financial risk here? If Newsnet wins or if someone else loses a similar case, what kind of money are we talking?
It can be serious, really serious. In the U.S., copyright law allows for statutory damages that can range from, say, $30,000 up to $150,000 per work infringed.
Per article.
Per article, potentially. So if Newsnet is talking about millions of articles, well, you do the math, the numbers get astronomical fast, enough to, make you think about selling your Tesla, as they say.
Wow. Okay, that's substantial. What about in India?
In India, the statutory fines might generally be lower, but the courts have real power. They could issue an injunction, block your app completely, freeze your funds, impose heavy costs, especially if they find the infringement was willful, like you knew you were doing it.
So it could shut you down.
It could absolutely shut you down, put you back on a cycle, so to speak. It's a devastating risk, financially and operationally.
Okay, those numbers really drive it home. High stakes. So zooming out, what's the big lesson here? What's the takeaway for the future of AI and content?
I honestly think this is kind of the Napster moment for AI.
Napster, like the old music sharing thing.
Exactly. Remember how Napster completely upended the music industry, forced them to figure out digital distribution, new licensing? This feels similar. It's forcing a massive rethink about how we balance innovation, which AI absolutely represents, with the basic rights of creators to control and profit from their work.
So it's forcing a new model.
It's pushing towards one, and courts everywhere, including India, are watching these big cases very, very closely. If Newsnet gets a decisive win, you could see a ripple effect. Widespread adoption of licensing deals, maybe new government regulations specifically for AI training data, possibly even things like mandatory AI audits.
AI audits, like companies having to prove their AI isn't trained on stolen stuff.
Potentially, yeah. Proving the legality of their data sources could become standard practice. It's a whole new landscape forming.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's hit a couple of quick questions people might have first. Can I still use AI for, like, writing blog intros or drafting marketing emails? Simple stuff.
Yes. Generally, yes. The key is if the output is fairly generic, if it's well paraphrased, and importantly, if it's not pulling directly from, say, very recent news headlines or heavily copyrighted website text.
So avoid specific, unique phrasing from other sources.
Exactly. Focus on originality in the final piece, even if AI give you a starting point. If it's general business advice or a standard email format, you're likely fine.
Okay, second question. Are we going to see AI platforms start, like, watermarking their output? Or maybe adding citations showing where the info came from?
I think that's highly likely, yes. We're already seeing moves in that direction. Future tools might very well have built-in citation systems, maybe source maps, ways to improve transparency.
To trace it back.
It helps manage the legal risk for everyone, and it builds user trust, which is crucial.
All right. So wrapping up this deep dive on the AI copyright wars, what have we learned? Key takeaways.
Well, first, AI is incredibly powerful, obviously, but it's definitely not above the law. Copyright still matters.
Okay, number one, law applies to AI. Got it.
Two, everyone involved, creators using AI, developers building it, you need to think legally, not just technically or creatively, understand the risks.
Think legally.
Right.
And three,
licensing, transparency about your data, and just plain old originality in your final work. Those are your best defenses right now, your best friends in navigating this.
couldn't agree more. Licensing, transparency, originality. Crucial. So, our final thought for you to chew on. Until these legal battles settle and we have clearer rules, create smart, code clean, and maybe don't let your AI do your dirty legal work for you.